The Suez Canal is a 193-kilometer-long artificial waterway that cuts through Egypt to connect the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. Its main feature is its fast navigability since there are no locks. The canal allows maritime communication between Europe and Asia without the need to go around the African continent, which would make the journey much longer. This makes it one of the main maritime routes in the world, with hundreds of ships passing through every day, transporting goods between Asia, Europe, and the western United States. The canal is responsible for 14% of the world's goods transportation and is considered one of the most important masterpieces ever made by humanity. This is Construction Time. I'm Luciano Guimarães, and in this video we're going to learn about the Suez Canal, the Egyptian canal that divides the desert. But before we start this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, leave your like and turn on the notification bell so you can always keep up with the next content here on Construction Time. The artificial opening in the middle of the continent is located on the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt at the junction between Africa and Asia, very close to the coast of Europe. It was inaugurated in 1869, and its history is tied to the influence of European imperialist nations and their respective commercial interests. The importance of the Suez Canal is linked to the high volume of goods that pass through the canal every day. The strategic maritime location between the important exporting market, Asia, and the major consumer center, Europe, is reflected in the concentration of commercial activities in the canal. This passage has made Egypt a kind of gateway between the West and the East, transforming the history of globalization and the transportation of cargo from one side of the world to the other. The Suez Canal stretches for 193 kilometers from Port Said on the Mediterranean Sea in Egypt to the south of the city of Suez, located on the northern coast of the Gulf of Suez. The canal divides most of Egypt from the Sinai Peninsula. It took 10 years to build and was officially inaugurated on November 17, 1869. Even though the canal is locally owned, the use of the Suez Canal must be open to ships from all countries, whether for commercial or military purposes, although this has not always been the case. The idea for the Suez Canal began more than 3,200 years ago during the reign of Pharaoh Ramses II of ancient Egypt, who wanted to make it easier for boats to cross. The concept of a canal connecting these seas and the Nile River lasted until the construction of the first canal in the area, linking both bodies of water through the Nile River. Under the reign of Senusret, III Pharaoh of Egypt, from 1887 to 1849 before Christ. However, the canal was frequently abandoned for many years after its construction. At the same time, the canal was also reopened several times for navigation under the reign of various rulers, which historical documents indicate the canal was expanded, and several other attempts to build new canals were also made during these periods. The first modern effort to build a canal took place in the late 1700s during Napoleon Bonaparte's expedition to Egypt. He believed that creating a canal controlled by the French in the Isthmus of Suez would cause commercial problems for the British, because they would have to pay fees to France or continue sending goods to the land or around the southern part of Africa. Studies for Napoleon's canal plan began in 1799. Still, a measurement error showed that the sea levels between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea were too different for a canal to be viable, and the construction was immediately halted. With the rise of New Europe and the development of industry and maritime trade, entrepreneurs began to consider building canals. One of these plans aimed to connect the Red Sea directly to the Mediterranean Sea, saving time by avoiding the need to sail around Africa or transport cargo or passengers across the Suez Peninsula. The next attempt to build a canal in the area took place in the mid-1800s, when a French diplomat and engineer, Ferdinand de Lesseps, convinced the Egyptian viceroy Said Pasha to support the construction of the canal. In 1858, the Universal Suez Ship Canal Company was formed and was granted the right to begin building the canal and operate it for 99 years. After that period, the Egyptian government would take control of the canal. The construction of the Suez Canal officially began on April 25, 1859. It is estimated that a total of 2.613 billion cubic feet of earth, 600 million by land, and 2.013 billion by dredging would have to be removed. For the construction of the canal, however, the decision to build a canal linking the Mediterranean and the Red Sea drew criticism from the British, considered the project a political scheme to undermine the country's maritime trade dominance. Britain continued to oppose the project until the empire bought a 44% stake in the canal after the Egyptian government auctioned off its shares in 1875 due to financial problems. Initially, the construction of the canal was carried out by forced laborers. It is said that thousands of people were forcibly assigned to dig the canal using pickaxes and shovels until Pasha banned the use of slave labor in 1863. This forced the Swiss company to bring steam and coal-powered shovels and dredgers to build the canal. With the help of this machinery, the project received the necessary boost and allowed the waters of the Mediterranean to flow into the Red Sea through the canal. On November 17, 1869, when it was opened for navigation, the Suez Canal was between 60 and 90 meters wide at the surface, 21 meters wide at the bottom, and 7 meters deep. Nowadays, the canal is 24 meters deep and 365 meters wide, with a current cargo transport capacity in the canal of 240,000 tons. The locality of Port Said, 32 kilometers from Lake Menzala, represented the first engineering challenge. This part was about 1.5 meters deep. The bottom consisted of extremely soft clay resulting from the deposits of the Nile. The problems were the excavation of the mud, the construction and foundation of the canal banks on very weak soil, and the use of the excavated material for construction. The solution was simple. Most of the clay was removed from the bottom of the lake, the water was squeezed out, and blocks were formed by stacking them on top of each other. By doing this, a small canal, 3.65 meters wide, was formed. This canal already allowed the work of dredgers, and the operation soon began. Below the mud for clay lining, the soft clay was left to dry in the sun before adding another layer on top of it. This allowed the cohesion to increase. When finished, the banks were 2 meters high above the water. The sun cooperated and baked the clay into a solid, firm mass. So firm that the banks were used as roads where heavy loads were transported. The engineers realized the project could only be finished with dredgers for excavation. So they designed the dredgers to carry out the work. They varied in size according to the job they were requested for and the arrangement of the dredged materials. The smaller dredgers had 15 horsepower. Next came the medium-sized dredgers, followed by the largest machines with 75 horsepower. The largest dredgers were 33 meters long, with a beam of 8 meters and drums 14 meters above the waterline. When these dredgers had finished dredging, the required depth was reached. The connection with the Sweetwater Canal and the dam at the Suez Canal line were removed. The final filling of the canal took place on August 15, 1869. The joining of the two seas caused the rapid dissolution of salt with the crust of the Bitter Lakes, whose 100,000 acres were filled by October 24. In 7 months, not the expected 10. The absence of a current between the two ends of the canal proved the accuracy of Bourdalou's 1847 survey, which predicted that the waters would not reach the other shore. The influence of the Red Sea only extended as far as the Bitter Lakes, which served as a large reservoir for the waterway and regulated the sea level at both ends. The problem was solved with a system of temporary locks installed in the lakes, carrying water forward until it reached the other end of the canal. Although construction of the Suez Canal project began in 1859, the expansion of the canal never stopped. The canal's current cross-section is 15 times larger than when it opened in 1869. Many transportation and irrigation projects have been carried out to further develop the Suez Canal and the Suez Canal region. Among them are the expansions of the canal's cross-section and the Ahmed Handy tunnel bypasses, as well as the El Sheikh Zayed siphon. The original total cost of the project was estimated at 200 million francs, which is over 1 billion riz. However, the completion and total cost of the project were more than double the original estimate. The Panama Canal and the Suez Canal have been longtime rivals in the container shipping industry because both canals support the flow of global trade by shortening historic trade routes. Container ships keep getting bigger, and the canals realize the need for expansion projects to keep up with the pace of the industry. Both canals realized the need to expand their waterways. As a result, expansion projects began. The Panama Canal expansion project began in 2007 and was completed in 2016. The new third set of locks created an additional lane to accommodate larger container ships. After the completion of the project, the canal can now accommodate ships with a capacity of 13,000 20-foot equivalent unit, more than double the previous amount. The Suez Canal Authority recognized that it would need to compete with the expansion of the Panama Canal. Therefore, the Canal Authority announced its plan in August 2014 to deepen the canal and create a new 72-kilometer parallel lane to allow two-way traffic. Previously, the Suez Canal only allowed one-way convoys, which caused delays for ships navigating the waterway. The expansion project shortened the transit time from 18 to 11 hours. The waiting time to transit through the canal also dropped from about 11 hours to about 3 hours. In August 2014, the expansion of the Bala Passage by 35 kilometers was started at a cost of $8.4 billion to increase the capacity of the Suez Canal. Therefore, the funding was provided through the issuance of investment certificates, exclusively for Egyptian entities and individuals. This expansion is expected to double the capacity of the Suez Canal from 49 to 97 ships per day. The Suez Canal, as the expansion was called, was inaugurated in a ceremony on August 6, 2015. Ships approaching the canal by sea are expected to radio the port when they are less than 24 kilometers from the clean water mark near the port, Said. The canal has no locks due to the flat terrain, and the small difference in sea level between each end is irrelevant for maritime transport. Since the canal does not have sea gates, the ports at each end would be subject to the sudden impact of tsunamis from the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea. The Suez Canal received United States $3 billion in 2021, the highest revenue ever recorded on the maritime trade route in eastern Egypt. Despite the historic blockage caused by a stranded ship in March of the same year, the canal was blocked by Ever Given. The 400-meter-long container ship the size of a skyscraper got stuck diagonally in the shallow waters. It is believed that the ship got stuck after the containers on top of the ship acted like a sail during a dust storm, causing the ship to veer off course and get stuck. More than 200 ships were stuck in the canal bottleneck, waiting to pass, carrying goods ranging from cars to electronics and livestock. This worried the companies responsible for the waiting ships, since they would need to pass through the Horn of Africa, where piracy off the coast is high and has been steadily increasing in recent years. The waters off the coast are considered the most dangerous in the world. This has only reinforced the importance of the Suez Canal. The inability to pass through there stalled the global economy for several days and led to increased costs and longer journeys around the coast of Africa. Both the canal and the Suez pipeline, located in the Gulf of Suez, are of utmost importance for oil and natural gas flows, accounting for 9% of all oil traded by sea and 8% of natural gas. The importance of the Suez Canal is undeniable. It connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea, making it the shortest maritime route from Europe to Asia. It was completed in 1869 and became one of the busiest maritime routes in the world. Its construction has been a benefit to the maritime sector in terms of shorter transit times and cost savings. The connection between the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea promoted greater agility and lower commercial transition costs, as well as developed the region's economy. In addition, the Suez Canal made it easier to transport the production from major manufacturing centers in the world, such as China and Southeast Asia, to Europe, one of the most important consumer markets in the world. What are your thoughts on the Suez Canal? Share in the comments. Also, leave a like if you enjoyed it, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. That way, you'll always stay updated with construction time content. And if you're still going to stick around here on YouTube, watch our other video that's showing up on your screen. A big hug and see you in the next video.